The door that shouldn't open Jack Carter was just hungry. He had been working late again in the engineering bay of the Unity Dawn, the galaxy's first truly interspecies ship. Humans, Zivani, Rollery, even the glowing ball creatures from Sector 12B, they were all here. Jack didn't understand half of their tech, but he fixed what he could, and nobody complained. He was human, and humans were good at improvising. Now, he was just looking for a snack. His stomach growled as he walked down the metal hallway, blinking at the weird glowing signs. Most were in alien languages, curly lines, floating dots, strange patterns. Jack guessed one of them said, cafeteria. At least, he hoped it did. Turning left instead of right, he stepped through a sliding door. It whooshed open with a quiet hiss. The room inside was dim, warm, and filled with a strange purple mist. Soft music hummed in the background, not human. Music, more like singing whales with rhythm. Jack blinked. This was definitely not the cafeteria. And then he saw her. A tall, powerful figure stood with her back to him. Blue skin, covered in glowing tattoos. Armor half off. She turned her head. Slowly, and her golden eyes locked with his. For a moment, everything froze. Jack's brain tried to reverse. "Oh, crap," he whispered, taking a step back. I didn't know anyone was. I thought this was the lounge or something." The alien woman tilted her head. "You entered." "Willingly?" she asked, voice calm but sharp like a knife wrapped in silk. "I swear I didn't mean to. I got lost." "I just wanted a snack," Jack said, eyes wide, hands up. "You have seen me in the changing space," she said, stepping forward. Her boots clicked on the floor like thunder. "You have made the selection." Jack blinked. "What selection?" "I didn't even make a sandwich." Her name was LT, Virexa, of the Zivani warrior caste, a proud species, strong and ancient. In their culture, privacy during armor removal was sacred. Only a chosen mate or a serious challenger could enter that room while the warrior was unguarded. And Jack Carter, snack-hunting Earthboy, had just walked in uninvited. Virexa stared at him with no expression. "You are either brave or very foolish." Jack smiled nervously. "Can't I be both?" She didn't laugh. That made him more nervous. A low sound echoed from the wall, a pulse of red light. Virexa turned and touched a glowing panel. Alien script floated in the air like fireflies. "What's going on?" Jack asked, stepping back toward the door. She looked at him once more, this time with a hint of curiosity. "You have been marked. The ritual of proving has been activated." "Ritual of what now?" "You will be summoned," she said. "Prepare yourself, human." Jack opened his mouth to ask what that meant, but suddenly the room shimmered. A beam of light scanned his body, then disappeared. A robotic voice announced something in Zivani. He didn't understand it, but it didn't sound like congratulations. The door behind him sealed shut with a loud clang. Jack blinked again. Oh no, oh no, no, no. 12 hours later, Jack sat in a glowing cube room. No windows, just cushions, alien fruits, and a small screen that showed him the words, "Do not panic." Too late. He had tried explaining it was an accident. That humans don't consider walking into a room a marriage proposal. But the ship's translator kept glitching. Every time he said, "Sorry," it translated as "I accept the challenge." Virexa hadn't shown up again, but others had. Strange-looking aliens with clipboards and scanners. They measured him. One poked his bicep and looked impressed. Another took a DNA sample and mumbled something about strong Earth genes. Jack groaned and leaned back against the wall. "This is how I die," he muttered. "Because I couldn't find a vending machine." On the Zivani command bridge, Virexa stood tall in front of the council. "This human walked into my changing space," she said calmly. "The ancient rules are clear." "But he is not Zivani," one elder replied. "He walked in with open eyes. He did not run." "That's because he was confused, not committed," another said. Virexa's eyes narrowed. "Intent is irrelevant. The ritual has begun." The council fell silent. The choice had been made. Back in Jack's room, a voice crackled from the screen. "Jack Carter of Earth, your presence is required in the arena of proving." Jack stood up slowly. "Arena? Wait, no one said anything about an arena. What's the proving part? I already proved I can embarrass myself in record time." The screen went dark. Jack sighed. "I should have just eaten that protein bar from my locker." He looked at the door, which slowly slid open with a dramatic hiss, and outside, a crowd was waiting. Cliffhanger, the ritual has begun. Jack is part of something ancient, alien, and possibly very romantic, or very deadly. The arena of proving Jack Carter had always believed life couldn't get worse than high school gym class. He was wrong. He now stood at the edge of a massive arena, round, glowing, and filled with thousands of aliens. Every species on the Unity. Dawn seemed to be watching. Some floated. Some clicked their mandibles. One had 17 eyeballs focused only on him, and in the center stood LT Virexa, fully armored, majestic, dead serious. "This isn't real," Jack whispered to himself. "This is a fever dream. I probably ate bad space chicken and passed out in the vents." But the pain in his shoulder from a pre-match honor slap by a 6-armed Zivani elder said otherwise. A booming voice echoed from the sky. "Begin the ritual of proving." The crowd roared. Jack didn't know whether to wave or scream. Earlier, in the holding chamber, Jack had been prepared by 2 alien assistants. One of them rubbed glittery slime on his arms. The other handed him what looked like a helmet made of spaghetti. "I'm not wearing that," he said. They nodded in agreement, and then forced it onto his head anyway. He had asked repeatedly what the ritual of proving actually was. Combat? Puzzle? Talent show? He'd asked. All he got was one translation. Survive. Impress. Be chosen. Jack didn't like the sound of any of those words in that order. Back in the arena, Virexa stepped forward. Her voice was amplified now, deep and commanding. "This human has entered my changing space. In Zivani tradition, that begins the ancient test. 3 trials, 1 bond, no retreat." Jack raised a hand. "Hi, yes. Quick question. Can we swap out the trials for a friendly apology and some tea?" The crowd laughed. Not in a good way. She ignored him and raised a long staff, which shimmered with purple light. The first trial, the maze of judgment. With a deep rumble, the arena floor shifted. Giant walls rose from beneath the ground, forming a twisting maze. Glowing symbols hovered above it, flickering in strange patterns. A panel opened beneath Jack's feet. He dropped straight down with a shout, inside the maze. He landed with a thud. The walls were smooth and humming. Every path looked identical, and the air smelled like burnt copper. "Okay? First trial. Just a maze. I can do this," he said aloud. "Probably, maybe. Definitely not." He took a step forward, and the walls behind him closed instantly with a sharp hiss. Jack jumped. "Rude," he started moving. As he walked, he noticed symbols on the walls, not just decoration. They were changing, shifting into new forms every time he looked away. Then came the whispers, not voices exactly, more like thoughts that didn't belong to him. Not worthy, weak flesh. "He cannot complete the bond." Jack clenched his fists. "Oh, shut up. I already talked to myself enough." As he turned a corner, a strange figure appeared, a floating hologram of himself. But older, worn down, tired. You'll fail, it said. You always run. Jack swallowed hard. That's not fair, he muttered. You left Earth. You left your family. You left the girl. Stop it, Jack said louder. You're not a warrior. You're a tech monkey who fixes coffee machines. Jack shoved through the illusion. It disappeared into mist. He ran now. Not from fear, but toward something. And then he saw it, the center of the maze. A small platform with a glowing orb. The same orb Virexa wore on her chest armor. He stepped onto the platform. The orb lit up. Meanwhile, in the council room, the elders watched from the upper deck of the arena. He found the center. One whispered. In record time, said another. Virexa allowed herself a small smile. He's strange, but he adapts fast. The rival warrior Zarn scowled. Luck, nothing more. One elder raised a claw. No, intuition. He sees patterns others don't. Back in the maze, the orb released a pulse of light. Suddenly, Jack was no longer in the maze. He stood on a new platform, floating above the arena. In full view. The voice returned. Trial 1, passed. The crowd murmured. Some clapped. Some hissed. Virexa stepped forward again. Human, you have completed the maze of judgment, but the ritual is far from over. Jack wiped sweat from his forehead. Is the next one a dance competition? I've got a mean moonwalk. She did not smile. The second. Trial begins now. She turned and pointed at the sky. A shadow moved. Jack looked up and saw a giant alien machine descending. 8 legs, glowing eyes, spinning blades. He laughed nervously. Haha, very funny. Is that real, guys? Is that a boom? It landed in the arena. Trial 2, combat. Jack's voice cracked. Wait, what? Cliffhanger ending. Jack, armed, with only his spaghetti helmet and a sarcastic sense of humor, must now face a combat trial against a machine designed to crush challengers from warrior species. And all he can think is, I seriously hope this thing has an off switch. Culture shock. Jack Carter didn't know whether to cry, throw up, or laugh maniacally. The massive spider-bot thing he fought in the arena had finally collapsed after Jack tricked it into chasing him into an unstable power coil. The explosion nearly vaporized him, but instead it fried the bot's core and launched Jack 20 feet across the sand. He woke up face down in some kind of alien medical pod, covered in purple goo, a healing patch stuck to his ribs, and an extremely judgmental nurse with 3 eyes watching him. Did I win? He croaked. The nurse blinked, all 3 eyes at once, and said, technically, you are not dead. Cool, Jack wheezed. I'll take it. Outside the pod, 2 hours later, Jack stepped onto the Zivani deck in fresh clothes. Sort of. His ceremonial wear looked like a cross between a bathrobe, armor, and a bird nest. The Zivani called it battle grace robes. Jack called it the most confusing blanket he's ever worn. He was escorted to a large chamber carved from stone and tech. Glowing blue fire floated mid-air. Large metallic statues of ancient warriors stood guard, each holding a different weapon. The air smelled like burning metal and flowers. Waiting inside was Virexa. She didn't smile. She didn't nod. She didn't even say hello. Sit, she said. Jack sat. I see you survived. She added, tone unreadable. Yup, just barely. You know, if I'd had a little more time to prepare, maybe a laser cannon. And oh, I don't know, a warning. I might have done better. Virexa tilted her head. You passed. By accident. That still counts. Jack stared at her. Your culture is insane. And yet, she said, you are still here. Cultural chaos, the room filled with a low musical hum. Two Zivani elders entered, robes flowing, faces painted in silver. One of them spoke. The human has passed 2 trials. This is unprecedented. Jack raised his hand. Hi, still sitting here. Can someone please explain what happens if I pass all 3? Do I get, like, a trophy? A free sandwich? My own planet? Virexa stiffened. Elder's voice dropped. You become bonded. Jack blinked. What, like married? Like fused. Fused. I didn't agree to fusion. I came here for an engineering job and ended up in some ancient alien dating deathmatch. The second elder spoke, more gently. You must understand, human. In Zivani law, to see a warrior in their changing space is a sacred act. It means you were chosen by fate. The trials are not punishment. They are proof. Proof that you belong. Jack stood up. That's the thing. I don't want to belong. I just want to get off this ride before the last loop kills me. The elders bowed and left, leaving Jack fuming. Virexa didn't move. Finally, she said quietly, Do you truly hate us so much? Jack paused. That wasn't anger in her voice. It was something else. Something softer. He sighed. I don't hate you. I'm just terrified, confused, hungry, probably concussed. She turned to face him now, eyes gleaming under the low light. You are the first human to pass the first 2 trials. You solved the maze with instinct. You defeated the mech with no weapon. The council sees value in that. So do I. Jack blinked. Wait. Are you saying you want this bond to happen? She looked away. I follow the law. That wasn't a no. Sudden twist before he could ask more. An alarm echoed through the chamber. Red light flashed. A mechanical voice shouted something in Zivani, and Jack's translator caught only part of it. Unauthorized entry. Breach. Combat deck. Incoming. The wall behind them cracked with a loud boom. An explosion rocked the tower. Jack hit the ground. Okay, that's new. Virexa was already moving, sword drawn from her back in a flash. She turned to him. Stay here. He laughed. Oh no, not this time. If I'm fighting robots in mazes, I'm fighting whatever's breaking the walls too. She stared at him. No weapon? She asked. He picked up a broken chair leg and shrugged. I'm creative. Cut to the shadow in the hall. In the darkness of the ruined corridor, a figure moved. Zarn, Virexa's rival, covered in heavy armor and armed with illegal tech. His eyes glowed with fury. This human shamus our bloodline, he growled. He activated a cloaking field. This ritual ends tonight. Back with Jack and Virexa's, they ran down the corridor together, dodging sparks and rubble. Virexa finally said, There is one final trial. Jack huffed, catching his breath. Oh, great. Is it another death butt? Giant puzzle cube? Karaoke? She glanced at him, deadly serious. No, it is trust. Jack stopped. That one's the hardest. They turned a corner and came face to face with Zarn. Cloaking shimmered off his armor. He raised a pulse cannon. You should have stayed in your little earth hole. Zarn hissed. Virexa drew her sword. Jack gripped his broken chair leg tighter. Cliffhanger. Ending. Jack is about to face a jealous warrior with centuries of combat training. And an energy cannon, armed only with wit, a stick, and a very complicated relationship status. Will he survive the ambush? Will Virexa stand with him? Or follow tradition? Is trust enough to win the third trial? Rivals and Shadowskarn's cannon hummed with deadly energy, the tip glowing a furious blue. The air crackled. Sparks danced across the walls as smoke from the earlier explosion still curled in lazy trails. Jack stood next to Virexa, gripping his very heroic and completely useless chair leg. Let the human go, Virexa warned, stepping in front of Jack. This is against tradition. The trials are sacred. Zarn laughed, a bitter, rattling sound. Tradition? You protect a mistake. This human stumbled into your chamber and turned the ritual into a comedy. A real warrior should be at your side, not some soft-boned alien tech boy. Hey, Jack muttered, raising a hand. These soft bones beat a murderbot and solved your ancient puzzle maze. I've earned the right to be here, even if I don't totally understand why I'm here. You speak too. Much, Zarn growled, raising his weapon. I get that a lot. Ambush the cannon fired. Virexa shoved Jack aside, lightning fast, the blast grazing her shoulder. Her armor sizzled. She didn't flinch. She rushed Zarn with her blade. Steel met plasma as they clashed, sparks lighting the corridor. Jack scrambled. Behind a column, then peeked around. Heart-pounding dot, he had no real plan. No gun, no armor. No training dot, just a chair leg, a brain full of sci-fi movies, and the knowledge that if he ran now, he'd never stop hating himself. The fight Virexa and Zarn moved like titans, their blows echoing through the hall. Zarn was stronger, brute force, raw anger, but Virexa was faster. Focused dot, she spun low, slicing at his leg, then ducked his counterattack, with grace that made Jack's jaw drop. But then, Zarn activated a hidden blade from his wrist. It slashed across Virexa's side. She staggered. No! Jack shouted. He ran toward them, all logic gone, and whacked Zarn in the back of the head with the chair leg dot. It shattered instantly. Zarn turned slowly, rage in his eyes. Jack froze. That was my whole plan, he whispered. Zarn raised his blade dot, then Virexa tackled him from behind, slamming him into the wall. Jack jumped back, ducking behind a pillar again. Okay, plan B, stay alive. Betrayal explicit. Virexa finally disarmed Zarn, pinning him to the ground. Her sword hovered at his throat. You broke the laws, she growled. You interfered with the ritual. That is exile. Zarn spat blood. The council's laws are weak. Our bloodlines are fading. And you bring this fragile thing into our traditions? He turned his gaze to Jack. He doesn't belong. He never will. I decide who belongs, Virexa said coldly. Not you, not the past. Me. She turned to Jack, then lowered her sword. Aftermath and questions guards arrived moments later. Zarn was dragged away, shouting about bloodlines and purity, and this isn't over. Like a classic villain. Jack and Virexa sat in the hall after. The dust settled. Jack broke the silence. So is that how all your exes act? Virexa gave a rare, tired smile. He was never my mate, just a rival for status. Well, Jack said, rubbing his head. He nearly turned me into barbecue. She looked at him seriously. Why did you run into danger? You could have escaped. Jack shrugged. You were fighting for me. I figured I should fight for you too. She looked away. The third trial was not meant to be like this. It was meant to be private, spiritual, symbolic. Jack chuckled. Yeah, we kind of skipped straight to the nearly dying together part. The truth about the bond. Later that night, in the Zivani meditation chamber, Virexa explained the final piece. The third trial, she said softly, is not about strength, or puzzles, or combat. It is about willing choice. After the trials, both sides must accept the bond, or walk away. Jack blinked. Wait, so I could have just said no this whole time? She nodded. Then why didn't anyone say that at the beginning? She smiled faintly. Because if we told you it was optional, the trials wouldn't reveal your true intent. Jack sat back, exhaling. So all this was about finding out if I was serious? Yes. He stared at the ceiling. This might be the worst dating. app I've ever seen. Flashback. Jack's Earth memory as he lay in his quarters. Jack thought of Earth, of the girl he left behind, the job he ran from, the reasons he never stayed anywhere too long. He had always been afraid of being the wrong piece in the puzzle, but maybe this time he was just in a puzzle built by aliens with swords. And maybe that was okay. Cliffhanger ending the next morning. A Zavani ship arrives. On board is a representative from Earth Command. They've heard about the incident, and they're not happy. The human is being recalled, the officer says. Effective immediately. Virexa stands frozen. Jack is speechless. Will Jack return to Earth and leave the bond unfinished? Will Virexa let him go? Or will she break the law for him? The truth about the ritual Jack Carter stood in the Zavani Hall of Judgment, surrounded by silence so thick it felt like space itself had stopped breathing. Across from him stood Commander Hal Briggs of Earth Command, buzzcut, square jaw, and a uniform so stiff it could deflect asteroids. "We're here to bring you back," Briggs said firmly. "Now." Virexa stood beside Jack, unreadable. Her face was calm, but her hands were clenched. That was her tell. Jack had learned that much. "You can't just pull me out," Jack said. "I'm in the middle of something. You're a civilian contractor who has accidentally violated 3 interstellar cultural treaties and is now halfway through what some alien species calls a mating ritual." Briggs snapped. "You're done here." Jack blinked. "Okay. When you say it like that, it does sound kind of crazy." Virexa stepped forward. "This is not just ritual," she said. "He has completed 2 trials. The 3rd is in motion. If he leaves now, it will break a sacred oath." Briggs didn't flinch. "Human law doesn't answer to alien superstition. This is an extraction. Standard protocol." Jack swallowed. His brain felt like it had been put through a cosmic blender. A part of him wanted to run back to Earth, to safety, to familiarity. But a louder part, the part that had fought a deathbot and slapped the jaw, warrior with a chair leg, was not done here. "I'm not going," Jack said. Briggs turned. "You're serious?" "Yeah. I didn't come here to get married or fight in death trials. But I also didn't come here to run when things get complicated. Virexa didn't ask for me to walk in on her, but she gave me a chance anyway. I owe her at least one honest choice." Virexa's eyes softened. Just a little. The truth beneath the ritual later that night. Virexa took Jack deep into the Temple of Bloodstone, a sacred place only full-blooded Zavani warriors were allowed to enter. "I'm honored," Jack said quietly, as they stepped through glowing crystal doors. "You're not supposed to be," she replied. "Still am." Inside, murals stretched across the walls. Ancient battles, mating ceremonies, bonds formed and broken. Warriors standing beside. "Humans?" Jack stared. "Wait, is that Earth?" Virexa nodded. "The ritual is older than the Council knows. The Zavani bonded with humans once before. Long ago, before even our recorded history. But why? We didn't even have cell phones back then." She looked at him. "Because humans adapt. They endure. And they feel more deeply than most species ever will. You love like it's a war. Wild, reckless, impossible. That kind of love terrifies us. That's why the ritual is so hard." Jack swallowed. "You're saying?" "The trials weren't just tests. They were filters to stop people like me." "Yes, to make sure no outsider ever got far enough." Jack stared at the mural. "But I did. You did." A quiet moment before the storm, they stood side by side in the chamber of glowing memory. Silence stretching between them. Not the awkward kind. The kind that happens when 2 people know they're standing on the edge of something life-changing. "I should be terrified," Jack said. "But I'm not. I'm just weirdly okay." Virexa turned to him. That means you're ready. He smiled. Or I've finally gone space crazy. The council intervenes the next morning. Jack and Virexa stood before the council again. The tension was ice cold. Even the air seemed nervous. You have refused extraction, the elder said. You risk war between two allied species. I risk being honest, Jack replied. Then the third trial must begin in full. Wasn't the ambush and romantic trauma already part of that? No, the final trial is the unveiling. Virexa stiffened. Jack turned to her. Unveiling? She didn't speak. The elder continued. You must see what she is hiding. The true reason she allowed the ritual to proceed. If you still choose her after knowing the truth, then the bond will be sealed. The truth about Virexa later, alone. In a private chamber, Virexa finally spoke. I didn't stop the ritual because I believed in fate, she said. I let it continue because I had no choice. Jack frowned. What do you mean? She looked down. For the first time, he saw it, not a warrior, not a leader. Just a woman, afraid. My house is dying. My family line is the weakest in our caste. Without a completed ritual, without a bondmate, I lose my place in the council. I lose everything. Jack stepped back. So I'm what? Your political escape plan? At first, she said quietly. Yes. He turned away, hurt, burning in his chest. I don't know whether to be furious or flattered. I expected you to fail. To leave. You were never meant to survive the first trial. Gee, thanks. But you did, she said. And you kept going. And now, I don't know what this is anymore. She stepped closer. I have not asked for your forgiveness. Only your truth. The third trial. Choice. The final ceremony was simple. Jack stood on one side of a bridge, Virexa on the other. Between them. A glowing abyss. A single step would seal the bond. One step away would end it forever. Thousands watched. The Earth Rep stood silently at the edge. The elder's voice rang out. Jack Carter of Earth, you have seen her armor. Now you've seen her scars. The trial is complete. Choose. The whole galaxy held its breath. Jack looked at Virexa. At the warrior who hid a crumbling dynasty under steel. At the alien who'd become, somehow, home. He stepped forward. One step, then another. And then he stopped. The crowd gasped. Jack turned to Virexa. One condition. She raised an eyebrow. If we do this, I don't become a symbol. I don't become your trophy or your political shield. I become your equal. And you become mine. She stared at him. Then nodded. And Jack stepped fully across the bridge. The bond sealed in a storm of light, cliffhanger ending far away. In the dark corridors of a distant ship, a shadowy figure watched the broadcast. They completed the bond. A voice said. A second voice hissed. Then it's time. Humanity is rising. The prophecy begins. Glowing red eyes blinked in the dark. The real war had just begun. Mating or mission? Jack Carter didn't feel very bonded. He felt jet-lagged, emotionally fried, and vaguely sticky from the ceremonial gel the Zivani elders smeared on him during the ritual. Virexa walked beside him in silence. The corridor they entered was quiet. Too quiet. They had just become bondmates before the entire council, a human ambassador, and half the known galaxy. And now they were being marched into a private chamber guarded by soldiers who weren't smiling. Jack squinted. This isn't the yay you're married after party, is it? Virexa didn't answer. That's when Jack knew. Something was very wrong. The chamber of oaths inside, a holographic display flickered on. An elder stood on the screen, looking less ceremonial and more ... tactical. Bondmates Jack Carter and LT Virexa, the voice said. We have activated Protocol 7X, Jack blinked. That sounds way too much like something with an automatic laser involved. The Elder continued. Protocol 7X is only enacted when a bond is formed under prophetic circumstances. Virexa stiffened. Jack looked between them. Okay, someone want to explain? What prophecy? Is this like an ancient lovers save the galaxy thing, or a chosen one dies tragically situation? Because one of those is way less fun. The Elder waved a hand. A glowing symbol appeared in the air, a spiral of stars with Earth at its center. It is said that when a human and a Zivani bond during the rising of the blood comet, as you just did, the galaxy's balance will shift. Unity or extinction, war or peace. The bond will either heal the fractures between species or crack them wide open. Jack blinked. Okay, first, no pressure. Second, you maybe should've mentioned this before I agreed to alien space marriage. The rebellion below while Jack and Virexa were still digesting the news. Another explosion rocked the ship. Alarms screamed. Red lights blinked across the ceiling. A Zivani soldier burst into the room. The Separatists have breached the lower deck. They're coming for the human, Jack groaned. Why is it always me? The escaped Virexa didn't hesitate. She grabbed Jack by the wrist and pulled him into a maintenance hatch. Bypassing the main halls, they ran, through dark vents, behind flickering shields, past stunned engineers and confused diplomats. We were supposed to have a honeymoon. Jack muttered, not a manhunt. They're not just after you, Virexa said. They're after what you represent. Right, the prophecy. No, she said. Change. The rebellion revealed. They reached a hidden observatory room, overlooking the docking bay. Below, rebel ships. Zivani Warburn. A few humans in stolen armor. One wore a familiar face. Jack squinted. Wait, is that Commander Briggs? Virexa inhaled sharply. Jack stared in disbelief. The guy who tried to extract me? He's not here to extract. Virexa said coldly. He's here to assassinate. The truth comes out. Virexa tapped a wall console. A private recording played. Briggs' voice. If the ritual completes, everything changes. The alliance crumbles. We lose control. That bond must not be allowed to last. Jack froze. He knew, he whispered. He knew what would happen. That's why he came. Not to help. To stop us. Virexa nodded. Some humans fear losing control. Some Zivani fear sharing it. Together, they would kill us to keep their empires intact. Jack turned to her. So now what? We hide? Run? She shook her head. Now, we fight back. The mission. Strike back. Jack's plan was stupid. Dangerous. And totally. 100% very Jack. Step 1. Break into the rebel ship. Step 2. Broadcast the real story, the bond, the betrayal, the prophecy, across every channel on the Unity Dawn. Step 3. Pray they didn't die before Step 2. They stole armor. Blasted through a maintenance shaft. Snuck past rebel guards using Virex's clearance and Jack's very convincing limp. You're leaning too much, Virexa whispered. You look injured, not threatening. I am injured. Emotionally. Finally, they reached the comms. Core. Jack hacked it with his custom rig. A hacked translator, a Zivani datapad, and what looked suspiciously like a toaster. He uploaded the footage of the ritual, of Briggs, of the prophecy, and hit broadcast. The galaxy listens all over the ship, and across nearby diplomatic stations. The feed went live. They saw Virexa and Jack standing together. They heard the truth, and the galaxy paused. Rebel ships stopped. Council guards turned. Even Briggs froze, staring at the screen as the image of his secret meeting looped behind him. And then the room exploded. Cliffhanger ending. Jack and Virexa are caught in the blast. The screen goes dark. The council doesn't know if they're alive. The rebels don't know who's still loyal. And the galaxy doesn't know which way it will tip toward unity or destruction. Will Jack and Virexa survive? Has the message spread enough to spark peace? The choice silenced. Then pain. Jack's ears rang like someone shoved a plasma grenade into his brain and set it to maximum annoyance. He blinked through dust and smoke. His face was scratched, ribs bruised, and something in his shoulder felt wrong. But he was alive. Barely. Virexa? He CROAKED. No answer. He coughed, coughing up dust and a little blood, and looked around the ruined chamber. The rebel ship's comms core was now a twisted mess of burning metal and shattered walls, and in the center of it, motionless, was Virexa. No. He dragged himself over, fighting against his own screaming muscles, falling to his knees beside her. She was breathing, barely. Her armor was cracked, her side bleeding blue and silver. Her eyes flickered open. Still here? She whispered. Jack let out a strangled laugh. You think you're getting rid of me that easy? I just hacked a galactic war with a toaster. Her smile was weak, but real. Then he heard it, the sound of boots, multiple sets. Marching closer, rebels. Armed. And pissed. The final stand. Jack stood. Unarmed. Bloodied. In front of the only woman in the galaxy who made him feel like more than just human. The first rebel stepped into view, a human in stolen Earth Command gear. The one who had taken orders from Briggs. We warned you, he said. This changes nothing. You're one man. Jack looked down at Virexa. Then back up, eyes sharp. Wrong. And behind him, the doors burst open. Council guards. Zevani. Warriors. Unity Dawn crew. Diplomats. Civilians. Even a floating jelly creature, holding what might be a fork. All of them. Watching. Armed. With truth. Someone had gotten the message out. Jack's broadcast had worked. Across the galaxy, people had listened. Standoff. You brought this on yourselves. The rebel shouted. That bond will destroy everything we've built. Jack stepped forward, fire in his voice. What you built was a cage for people like me, for her, for anyone who dared believe two species could stand together. They're warriors. You're nothing. I beat your machines. I solved your trials. I stood beside her in the arena, in the ashes. And I'm still standing now. The rebel raised his gun. Blam. A single shot. From behind. Commander Briggs, holding a rifle. Face grim. He had shot his own man. Redemption and revelation. Everyone turned to Briggs. He stepped forward slowly, lowered the gun, and said, I was wrong. About him. About all of it. Jack blinked. Did you just save me? Briggs didn't. Smile. Don't get used to it. He turned to the crowd. This bond isn't a threat. It's the future. I see that now. And if we don't start trusting that future, we'll have no future at all. The rebel faction dropped their weapons. The war? It ended not with a laser strike, but with a choice. Aftermath. The bond forged 3 days later. Jack and Virexa stood in the Unity Garden, a rare peaceful place on the ship, now filled with diplomats, press, and representatives from over 50 species. A new alliance was being signed. The Unity Accord, born from the oldest Zevani ritual, and the most unexpected. Human, Virexa wore ceremonial armor. Her wounds had healed, mostly. Jack wore mostly clean clothes and a translator badge that still shocked him randomly. She looked at him. This was never supposed to happen. I know, Jack said. You were supposed to marry some sword guy with cheekbones carved from stone and a 300-year family legacy. She smirked. Instead, I got a clumsy, stubborn, snack-obsessed human who walked into the wrong room. He grinned, and then refused to leave. Epilogue. The real choice later. They sat alone beneath the stars in a quiet corner of the observation. Jack stared out at the galaxy, bright and vast and full of unknowns. I have to ask, he said softly. If I had walked away, would you have let me go? The Rexa was quiet for a long moment. Then, yes, Jack nodded slowly. Would it have hurt? She looked at him, and said, in the simplest, most unguarded voice he had ever heard from her. Like war. Or has their love just become the spark that starts an interstellar war?